What's going on, Giants fans? Back at it here with another New York Giants video, and the NFL Draft Combine is this week, and I'm very excited to talk about that a little bit. And also, that means we are closer to the new league year beginning, which means free agency is right around the corner. And with free agency right around the corner, the Giants have made a roster move or are planning on making a move that I want to talk about today. And I also want to talk about Joe Schoen's press conference a little bit and the things he said pending unrestricted free agents. But as always, before I dive into that, make sure to check us out on all of our social media platforms on Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube at Big Blue Avenue. And if you haven't checked out our sponsor already, please do so at BetUS. You can sign up with our promo code below there at Join125. Get a 125% sign up bonus where you can bet on the go anywhere, anytime. That's America's #1 favorite sports book where the game begins. Go check those guys out if you want to get in some sports betting. Now, let's talk about the news of the day. The New York Giants will release wide receiver Kenny Golladay when the league year begins, saving $6.7 million in cap space. Now, this is a move that a lot of Giants fans expected, and quite frankly, that a whole bunch wanted, including myself. When Golladay signed the contract back in March 2021, I was rooting for the guy. I really wanted him to be successful. I never had anything against him. A good guy, never really was vocal about complaining, playing time, or anything. But the sad reality is that Golladay was one of the worst free agent signings in NFL history, not just Giants history, NFL history. That 4-year, $72 million contract he signed in 2021, he only lasted 2 of those 4 years. In 2021, he wasn't awful, but he didn't score a touchdown, and he really fell off the second half of the season. In 2021, he played in 14 games, starting all 14 of them, 37 catches for 521 yards and no touchdowns. Those are not typical Kenny Golladay numbers, right? And you think things couldn't get worse. Well, in 2022, this past season, he played just 12 games, only starting 4 of them, had just 6 catches for 81 yards and a touchdown. He only caught 35% of the passes thrown in his direction. In fact, that one touchdown was the only that he scored as a New York from third-string quarterback Davis Webb. Now, Galladay's tenure as a Giant was an absolute failure. Part of it has to do with him. Part of it has to do with the new regime coming in, not utilizing him to what the previous regime had planned on doing, and partially due to the fact that the Giants were just heading in a different direction. Other receivers were basically outperforming him. Isaiah Hodgins, Richie James, Darius Slayton, those guys were more reliable for Daniel Jones than Kenny Golladay. It seemed like that Chicago game especially, he dropped the pass in that one game. I was there besides myself. But anyway, the finances here, the Giants will accumulate $14.7 million in dead money this year. That's the bad news. But the good news, he'll be fully off the books in 2024 because there was a clause in his after the 2023 season. So the 4th year of the contract is voided. If the Giants were to keep Golladay on the roster, they would have absorbed a $21.4 million cap hit next season. So the Giants don't have to worry about that. Again, a receiver who's only catching minimal passes a year, not really doing much for you anymore. With today's salary cap, you can't keep him on the roster, plus his lack of production and the fact that he's, quite frankly, wasting a roster spot for a receiver that will better suit Mike Kafka's offensive scheme. So I wish Kenny Golladay nothing but the best. I know he's approaching 30 years old now, if he's not there already. Again, first 5 seasons in Detroit, solid. 5th season was hindered by injuries. He became a UFA, played his last 2 years with the Giants. Let's hope year number 8 is better for him wherever he goes. No hard feelings towards the man. But yeah, that he's not sure. He's not 100% sure if they're going to release him once the new league year begins, but he's going to. He's just saying that. It was reported by some reliable sources that the Giants are intending to cut Kenny Golladay prior to June 1st to get that money open for free agency. Plus, the Giants are picking 25th in the first round this year since Miami forfeited their first round pick. So they'll be picking 26th in every other round. Their draft picks won't cost as much as they did in previous years. So you won't need as much money as you did last year for the NFL draft. And the Giants, of course, are in a much healthier cap situation. Now, let's talk about the Joe Schoen press conference. Now, the big elephant in the room this season, well, two, is will Daniel Jones and Saquon Barkley return for 2023 and beyond? Well, Joe Schoen had some clear answers and not so clear answers today at the Combine. Again, these are the points from Joe Schoen's presser. Joe Schoen has been in contact with Daniel Jones's agents. As we know, he switched from, I believe, CAA to Athletes First. This was a Daniel Jones decision. Joe Schoen mentioned we've had productive negotiations with Athletes First. Again, trying to get a deal done. The question seems to be, will it be a long-term extension or a franchise tag? We know the price range of him right now is probably lingering between $35 to $40 million. Schoen admitted he's cautiously optimistic about getting deals done with both Jones and Barkley. And now with Golladay being released, you've tipped yourself up to over $50 million in cap. Now here's the problem. The Giants are going to have to do more because a lot of that free cap space will be geared towards re-signing Daniel Jones and potentially if the Giants don't bring Saquon Barkley back, it leaves even more room open. But when it came to Barkley, Schoen said there's still a gap with Barkley, but the two sides have gotten closer since the start of the season. So I'm not as sold on the Giants keeping Barkley. I don't want to keep him on a tag. If the Giants keep Barkley on a tag, it'll be $10.1 million. This is just extending the inevitable, I think, of letting Saquon Barkley go. I personally want him back, but financially it doesn't make sense right now to have Saquon Barkley back. From a team standpoint, yes, because you're asking yourself who takes over, right? Who is the focal point of weapons for Daniel Jones? You're looking at Wan'Dale Robinson, Isaiah Hodgins, and Daniel Bellinger, all who are either entering their second year or a rookie contract. So, again, I'm not so certain what's going to happen with the future of this team. Darius Slayton's also a free agent. Richie James. There's a lot of guys out there that the Giants have to worry about. But Art Stapleton brought up an interesting question, and Joe Schoen answered it. This was in regards to Daniel Jones coming back in 2023. If he'll be the quarterback, Joe Schoen said simply, no doubt. So Daniel Jones is coming back. It's happening. It's just, will he be back on the tag, which would cost $32.5 million? Or will they give him a long-term extension, which will probably be at least $5 million north of $32.5 million? If I had to guess, Daniel Jones is getting no less than $37 million. That was actually my prediction. He'd get around $37 million, but now that number might be closer to 40. We'll see. I don't think $45 million is happening. Absolutely not. I think that's leverage. Ian Rappaport was surprised because Mike Florio, not the most reliable source out there. So, but I will say this. Joe Schoen also talked about Dexter Lawrence, a guy who's playing on the fifth-year option this season, and said the team has already had initial conversations with Dexter about a possible extension. Quoted, "We'd like to have him here for a long time," which is excellent news because the Giants have not prioritized interior defensive linemen in the past. We know a lot of guys that have left via free agency. So I'm excited to hear that they're going to prioritize Dexter Lawrence, if not this offseason, next offseason, or during the season. Who knows? Joe Schoen and his front office have also said they have had conversations with Nick Gates already this offseason. The team hopes to bring him back for 2023. So on the interior O-line to compete. Schoen said the team plans to talk to the reps of Julian Love and John Feliciano at the Combine this week. Fortunately, I don't expect at this point either of those guys to come back. Yes, you heard me correct. I don't think Julian Love is coming back to this football team. I think they're going to ride with Dane Belton, who had 2 interceptions last year on a cost control deal. I love to have Love back, but I don't know what his asking price is going to be. And I think he's a very replaceable player. Before this year, his production was primarily on special teams and in a 3-safety set. Love is an old school, reminds me of a Bill Parcells type of player. But in this modern day NFL and what the Giants are trying to do schematically, defensively, it doesn't make sense to pay Julian Love right now, especially when you have Andrew Thomas, Dexter Lawrence, and Xavier McKinney all due for contracts within the next year or two. So now and the start of the new league year. But folks, appreciate you all watching this video. Let me know what you think about Joe Schoen's press conference, the release of Kenny Golladay. Do you think it was a good move? Should the Giants have given Golladay one more shot? Joe Schoen, obviously more optimistic about Daniel Jones than Saquon Barkley. Hopeful they'll both be back in 2023. Once again, folks, you can check us out on all of our social media, Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube at Big Blue Avenue. Appreciate the support as always. Stay tuned for more. And without further ado, let's go Big Blue.